Who is rebellious in here? Anybody say they're kind of rebellious? Yeah. That's more of a response I've got than anything else today. So I feel very comfortable in here because I can and am very rebellious. Let me tell you about a story in college. Now, this is Bible college. The Bible college that I went to was one of these extremely legalistic colleges. Ladies, you would have to wear skirts down to basically your ankles. You'd have to wear pantyhose even when it's 162 degrees outside. Us as the men, we would have to, in the mornings until after chapel time, we would have to be dressed up in suits and ties, and your fancy shoes and all this stuff. The rules were crazy. But before I even got to college, the reason why I chose the college is because it was cheap. $5,000 a year for room and board and tuition. That was the cost. I thought that I was going to enjoy my life until 1 week before Bible college. I got a package in the mail, and the package was a little booklet. And the booklet read, Rules and Handbook for you as a student. I opened it up, and I'm all reading through, registration, and then it came to the rules. And I'm reading through the rules. And I about had a heart attack. I went to my parents and I said, "You've got to be kidding me. I'm going to college. I'm going to do whatever I want to. I'm not going to have a curfew." But what they told me is I have to make my bed. The room has to be clean. You have to have strict hours. And you cannot listen to Christian contemporary music. I have this whole slew of DC Talk CDs. I love any DC Talk lovers in here. I'm the only three. Then great. Awesome, great. DC Talk. Okay, for those of you guys who are not in the Christian realm, DC Talk was this little. It's kind of like Backstreet Boys back in Christian circles, and they're really not that good, but I like them. So I went to college, and within the first week, I left my DC Talk CD out, and they confiscated that. I'm like, what in the world? And sooner or later, I started to be extremely rebellious. And my rebellion was not an open rebellion. It was one of these secret, undercover rebellions. And I'm telling you, anything that handbook said to do, I would try to do the complete opposite. So 3 years passed of doing this, and I barely got caught. And trust me, I should have been expelled week 1. I really should have been. But 3 years later on, 3.5 years later on, Rachel and I were sitting in the common area. They call it the Four Winds. And it was kind of it was a cafeteria. I came back and met her, and I went on an evangelistic outing. It was a ministry trip. I think it was to the prisons, or to actually, I think it was to an apartment complex that we went to. So here I am, and I have the opportunity, even going out there, I have the opportunity to go ahead and wear a collared shirt with 3 buttons. It was great. It was awesome. And I was allowed to wear a pair of corduroys. All right? I couldn't wear jeans. I wore corduroys. All right? I tried to find them to wear for illustration, but I think Rachel threw them away. But I was wearing the corduroys, and the rule was this: the pockets of your corduroys or dress slacks have to have the pockets inside the pants. Okay? So it can't be pockets outside the pants. You have to have pockets inside the pants. I don't know why they came up with a rule about pockets on the outside of the pants, but they did. I'm standing in line to get my pizza or get my food, and here comes an individual. And this individual was basically the dean's narc. He was the best friend of the dean and everything. He comes up to me, and his name was Spencer, and I remember it today. Everybody who was like me that was rebellious hated Spencer, because he said, "Oh, your hair's not completely right. Your hair's a little bit too long. It's touching the collar, and it's touching your ears. I'm going to write you up, boy. And here's your pink slip. You're going to go to the dean's office." Spencer came up to me. I never had a confrontation with Spencer, because when I saw him coming, I'd get my shotgun. I did not want anything to do with him, so he actually came to me. if he knew the thoughts, the bitterness and rage that was about to come out, he would have had a different lunch hour. This is what ended up happening. I wore corduroy pants. I was in a hurry that day, so I pulled out some corduroy because, college, you don't wash your clothes other than like once a month, right? All right? Maybe it's just me. Okay, but I had all my laundry and I had a pair of corduroys put away, and then I knew that were illegal, but I was going on a mission trip. So I took them, I put them on in the morning, I went, and we had a great time. People came to know Jesus. I came back and got to sit down with my wife, soon-to-be wife. I sat down with Rachel, standing in line, and all of a sudden he comes up to me, and he taps me on the shoulder and said, and this way he sounded like, "Sir?" No joke, swear to God, he sounded like this. "Sir, you know that you have pockets on the outside of your pants." And I'm like, "I guess so. I'm sorry." He said, "Sir, I got to write you up. He pulls into his back pocket, and before he could get the pen, I'm like, "Are you kidding me?" It's a friend of retired comments, right? Here's Rachel on the very far other side, and she's like, "Oh, crap. What did he just do?" And I'm like, "Are you kidding me? I just came back. 2 people came to know Jesus at a service project, and you are telling me you're writing me up because I have pockets on the outside of my corduroys. I can't even wear jeans." It's like, "For that, I'm writing up too." He wrote me up, and he gave me the slip. I threw the slip away, but he turned in his slip on Tuesday is disciplinarian time. You get another pink slip in your box, and at the pink slip, you have to go to the dean's office. The dean knew who I was. I got the pink slip. He looked at me and said, "David, you are 2 weeks or 2 months away from graduating. Why did you do this? Why on earth did you do this?" And I looked at him and said, "The rules are stupid. I wore corduroys to obey you. Just, they had pockets the outside of pants. I'm sorry." He's like, "Okay, you're forgiven with that. But why did you talk to Spencer that way?" I'm like, "He's an idiot." He's an idiot. And I love the dean. I love the dean now because he smiled, he looked around, he said, "Yes, he is." So he looked at me and said, 2 months left, David. I know how you are. I know your mindset, but two months left. Let's get it done with. Let's get it done with. So he basically wrote me up, and he left me with 10 demerits left. If I had a write-up with 10 demerits left, I would be kicked out. In other words, he said, "Here's grace. Here's grace." Let's just say, by the time I graduated, when I got my diploma, I had to go to the disciplinary thing, and I had 1 demerit left. So I graduated. Woohoo! Stupid school. Okay. But I'm rebellious. Even to this day, it's bitterness. And Rachel and I had a fight, and a conversation just the other day. She's like, "That was just stupid that you did that." I'm like, it is, but the rules are just stupid. Why on earth have rules? And I think we can kind of relate to that. We open up the Bible, and we open it up, and it's like, don't do this, but it feels good. It looks good. It makes me happy. And you look at these rules, and within your jobs, in life, we have these rules. Wear a seatbelt. Why? Because you're going to die if you don't. And rules are to be broken for people who are rule breakers. Let me ask you, raise your hand if you've ever broken a rule. Oh, I feel at home. This is so great. But honestly, rules are something that we have in society. God gives us so that it will actually protect us. One of the rules, forbidden rules, within our household, and maybe all of your household, is this. Ethan, my son, is here. This is going to be spontaneous. So if it fails, he's normally in nursery. So if it fails, I'm sorry. But Ethan, come up here for a second, dude. Everybody say hi to Ethan. Hi, Ethan. This is my son, Ethan. Okay, Ethan. Hold on. Let me get the brownies. Let me see if the brownies are okay. All right. All right. What are you... Come here. Oh, hold on. All right. Is this okay to touch? Why not? Because it's hot. So should Daddy touch it? No, why not? It's hot. What is it going to do to my fingers? Burn it, exactly. And who told you not to touch that? Mommy. Good mother, okay. But why did Mommy tell you not to touch that? Because it's going to hurt you. Because Mommy wants you. Doesn't want you to get hurt because she what? Does she love you? She doesn't want Ethan Michael to get hurt, does she? No. All right. Give me a high five. Thank you, dude. Go take a seat. Let's give Ethan a hand real quick. But we know we're not supposed to touch the stove because it will what us? Burn us. And if you are a good parent, especially Rachel, I guess I didn't tell them to do that, so that's good. But if you're a good parent, you're going to tell your kids not to do stuff. Right? Let me say this. I was a youth pastor for 10 years of my life. And people have come up to me, and parents have come up to me and said, why are my kids acting up? Why are my kids acting up? And I said, what rules do you have in place? What guidelines do you have in place? And they said, we really don't have any. We just let them do what they want to do. And by doing that, they will learn not to touch or do things. And I said, that's the stupidest thing I've heard in my life. Because you put laws, you put rules, you put guidelines down so that the forbidden things that we have learned by touching things that I was actually tentative to touch just in case it was hot. All right, it's a psychological thing, and that's how rules should be. I know that I shouldn't touch this because I've been burnt by it before. You know what you're not supposed to do because you have been burnt by it before. And you don't want your kids to be what? Burnt by that. Or burnt because of rules or whatever. That's why they're there. So let me say this. This is free. Parents of teenagers, you need to set up rules for your children with consequences, and by doing so, I promise you they will respect you more. Because they will know where they can go up to earn your respect, and when they step over, they're going to get your attention, and then you'll need to get onto them to bring them back, to a kind of attention getter. So, that was free. But how about God? God says, don't do this. God says, don't do that. And we look at God and read the Bible, and we're like, that's stupid, God. It makes me feel good. It makes me look good. It makes me feel good inside. And God's like, you know what? I love you enough to say, don't touch it. So we're going to look through a story today in our second portion of the F-bomb. And the F word that we're going to be talking about today is called forbidden. These are forbidden things. So turn your Bibles, if you could, real quick, to Genesis chapter 39. Genesis chapter 39. Who's ever gotten burnt by a stove before? Knowing that you're not rebellious people. All right, Genesis chapter 39. The character that we're going to be looking at in this series is called Joseph. Joseph was favored, which led to favoritism by his father, which his brothers ended up hating him a lot. So they ended up basically beating him up, taking his coat many colors off, and putting him into a pit. They ended up selling his brother, Joseph, to some merchants that were coming along, heading towards where? Egypt. So we're heading towards Egypt, and that's where we pick up the story. So Joseph was just disowned by his family. His father thinks that he's dead. And here's Joseph. Joseph could have been so easily, Joseph could have been like, you know what? Screw you, God. This has happened. My family that I love, my family, my country that I've been growing up with my entire life has disowned me. And now I'm out by my own as a slave now. So screw you, God. But does Joseph do that? The answer is absolutely no. Verse 39, or chapter 39. Now Joseph had been taken down to Egypt, and Potiphar, an Egyptian, was one of Pharaoh's officials. The captain of the guard bought him from the Ishmaelites who had taken him from there. So who is Joseph's boss now? Everybody say Potiphar. All right, it's okay to talk back to me, all right? Who is Joseph's owner now? Potiphar, good, all right. And where are they at? Egypt. And so he's in Potiphar's house, and Potiphar was basically the second-hand, third guy in charge of the army of Israel this time. Verse 2. The Lord was with Joseph. Underline that, please. Why did Joseph go through all this stuff? Because the Lord was with him. Why did this bad stuff happen? Because God was with him. Why did the good happen that's about to happen? Because who was with him? God was with him. And God took care, and He's going to take care even though He's in the pit. And if you're in the pit right now, you're basically going to throw your hands up to God and say, why God, why God, why God did you allow this to happen? Let me let you know. Let me give you confidence. The Lord is with you. In the valley or at the peak of happiness of your life, He is with you all along the way. So the Lord was with Joseph, and he prospered, and he lived in the house of the Egyptian master. When the master saw that what? The Lord was with him, that the Lord gave him success in everything he did, Joseph found favor and became one of his attendants. So what did somebody else, Potiphar, see in Joseph? They saw God. Even though bad things are about to happen again, the season of good, people can see Joseph. Potiphar saw Joseph and said, yeah, there's something about him or her, and I'm going to give him a little bit of more responsibility. All right? Which would actually cause more rules along the way. And it says this in verse 4. And Joseph found favor in his attendant. Potiphar put him in charge of his whole household and entrusted him to care about everything he owned. From the time he put him in charge of the whole household and all that he owned, and who blessed him? The Lord blessed him and the household of the Egyptians because of Joseph. The blessing of the Lord was on everything Potiphar had, both his house and his field. So he left Joseph's care in charge of everything. And he did not concern himself about anything except what he ate. Imagine having somebody who's take care of the laundry and the dishes and just do your checkbook and just pay your bills and go to work for you. And all you have to do is just show up and eat. Wouldn't that be awesome? That's Potiphar right here because Joseph was doing just that. Now Joseph was well built and handsome. So, okay, I want you to visualize something for me. He looks like me. Okay? Either I'm offended or you're just that nervous laugh. Okay, so Joseph was well built and handsome. And after a while, the master's wife took notice of Joseph and said, "Come to bed with me." But he said, "Yes." What did he say? No. He said, he refused. "With me in charge," he told her, "my master does not concern himself with anything in my house. Everything he owned, he has entrusted to my care. No one is greater in the house than I am. My master has withheld nothing from me except for who? You, the wife. Because you are the wife." And I love this. "How then could I do such a wicked thing and sin against Potiphar?" Is that what it said? Sin against God. Let's pause right here. What you have to know is this. Joseph was a Jew, a dedicated Jew to the Jewish rules, customs, and desires that God has placed in his life. He is not afraid of Potiphar He is afraid and in honor of who? God. He's saying, I'm not going to go to bed with you even though you are a beautiful, beautiful woman. Even though you said, bring it on. Even though you say that, I'm saying no. Not to say shun you, but to say, God, I'm not going to touch. When these are lit up, it's nice, and it's like a different color. It turns all red and everything. You see the parents touching the stove and cooking on the stove. You know it's useful. You know it looks good, and you know it's there for its purpose. But God says, don't touch. And as children, we're like, but it looks pretty. It's useful. It's going to make me feel good because it's going to feed me. Joseph could have said, hey, you know what? Yeah, I'm the man. I'm the most powerful person in this household. Potiphar loves me. Everyone loves me. And I'm blessed by God because I'm handsome. I'm good looking. But he didn't say that. He said, you know what? All the blessings are coming from God. God's allowing this to happen. And God says in the Ten Commandments, don't commit what? Adultery. And God says, don't touch Potiphar's wife. Joseph said, yes, sir, and no, ma'am to her. All right, so you got the picture? This is who Joseph is. All right. And then it says, one day, when he went into the house to attend to his duty, and none of the household servants were inside. Okay. So who was there in the house by himself, or what he thought? Joseph thought that he was there by himself. No one else was in the house, so he thought. So he was going in there, doing his duties, he was doing his responsibilities, and so nobody's there. Verse 12, she caught him by his cloak and said, come to bed with me. But he left his cloak with her and went out of the house. Ran. Okay. I want to say this. Do you realize that the things you do, breaking God's laws, breaking society's laws, breaking culture laws, breaking the laws of men, if you do it in secret, it's still wrong. Okay? So if my son comes up and nobody's in the building, my son comes up and this is red hot. We had just left the stove. By the way, don't leave the stove unattended with your children. But if you leave and he's by himself and he gets this creative idea, he's like, Mommy's not there. Daddy's not there. I am going to try it because I don't trust Mommy and Daddy. And I feel that this will feel good for me. Mommy and Daddy are holding pleasure away from me, and they just want to use it for themselves. So he comes up and he touches it. What's going to end up happening? It burns. Potentially scars. Potentially psychological. I'm never going to cook again, and that's some guys in this place probably. Don't cook because maybe you've been burnt or something. But here's the deal. Even though it's in secret, he's still going to get burnt. I mentioned this periodically, the pornography for one. Men, and maybe some women, you do that in secret. It might make you feel good. It might have a feeling of success or whatever, but in reality, do you realize that God is actually watching you? And God's actually saying, don't do it. Just don't do it. And you do it anyway, you're going to get burned. And maybe you already have. And God, the loving Father, is not trying to hold something away from you. He's protecting you from getting what? Burned. Getting hurt. So here's Joseph. Nobody's home. Nobody's in the house at all. And this beautiful, it doesn't say that she's beautiful, but you can just imagine, one of the most powerful men gets to choose any of his brides, and he probably chooses a beautiful woman. Beautiful woman comes up to him and says, hey, nobody will know. Just you and me. Let's just go do it. You fulfill me, I'll fulfill you. Let's just go do it. Nobody will know. Joseph had the choice. He got this close. But what did Joseph do? He ran away. Ran so fast that the cloak that he had on his back was ripped off his back. And he ran and ran. And I pause and say this. Ladies and gentlemen, we need to run from sin. Even though we might make us feel good. We need to run from sin, even though society says it's okay. We need to run from sin because, just as Joseph said, we don't want to sin against who? God. But even though society says it's okay, don't do it. Let's finish with the story. When she saw that she had left the cloak in her hands and had run outside, she called for the husband's servants and said, look, she said to them, this Hebrew has been brought here to us, has made sport of us. He came here to sleep with me, but I screamed. And when he heard me scream for help, he left his cloak beside my bed beside me and ran to the house. Ran outside the house. She kept the cloak beside her until her master came home. Then she told the story, the Hebrew slave that you brought to us had made sport of us. But as soon as I screamed for help, he left the cloak beside me and ran outside. When the master's Potiphar, heard this story from his wife, he said, this is how the slave has treated me. He burned with anger. Joseph's master took him and put him in prison and placed where the king's prisoners were confined. I don't know about you, but I don't understand God sometimes. Because I try my hardest to follow the rules of God. I try my hardest. And don't you try your hardest? For the most part, we try our hardest. We know what we're supposed to do, and we don't do those things. We try. And for some of us who try our hardest, is life just perfect? Is life just perfect if you follow God's laws? No, it's not. Poor Joseph here, he had the dreams from God earlier, and now he's doing what is right. He's running away from sin, and Potiphar's wife catches him, and he's in trouble, and now he gets locked into prison. I don't know about you, but I would have had enough with God then. Enough, God. My family's gone. Now I'm rotting in prison here, and I don't know how long for something I did not do. But God has a plan, and we're going to be talking about that next week. God has a plan, even if you are doing things that are wrong, and even though you're doing things that are right, God has this beautiful, beautiful plan for you and me because He wants us. He loves us. The song we just sang is, He is jealous for me. In other words, He desires you and me to do what is right. But at the same time, He allows bad things to happen. Maybe to get our attention. Maybe to teach us. Maybe to draw them closer to each other. But we do need to continue to do what is right. All right. So let me ask you. Do you know that you are supposed to follow God's commands? Do you know that?
Yes.
All right. Seriously, do you know that? Okay. Do you know that you're supposed to follow what the Bible says, right?
Yes.
All right. But why don't we? Let me ask you that question, open-ended question. Why don't we, so it's not just you, why don't we follow this? Laziness, okay. What else? It's easier not to. Okay, good. What else? What's that? It's not cool, exactly. Yeah, it's not cool to follow this, okay? Okay, you think you're not going to get caught. Okay, good, you're good. Back to back. Selfish, okay. Andy? Yeah, temptation draws us far away from it. Anything else? You may not know what's in it. We're going to get to that portion in a little bit. Yes, sir. Lack of understanding. Good. What else? It's overwhelming? Oh, absolutely. You're like, I can't do anything. Kind of like my Bible college. It's so stupid. Why is it there? And then when we read it, we realize that after we have actually committed the sin, we feel guilty, and we know we shouldn't have done it because we got what? We got hurt. So, you guys know what we're supposed to do. But do you know that the Bible actually talks about 10 things that we're just not supposed to do? And what do they call the 10 what? Yeah. So do me a favor, go ahead and take these out. These little bookmarks, they're yours to keep. Alright? So take out these bookmarks. And I'm just going to go through these very quickly. Because some of us don't realize what are the rules, what are the regulations, what are the things that are forbidden for us as Christians, even human beings, to do. So before we even leave here, I want to make sure you know this. These things that God's talking about are what? Forbidden. They're rules. And we're like, alright, I did not come here to learn about a list of rules. I did not come here to learn about what I cannot do. I want to know what I can do. I want to come here, and I just want to meet some people, and I just want to maybe go closer to God. Yeah, but rules? That's not my cup of tea. So let me make it easy for you. It's as easy as this. There's a passage in Mark chapter 12, and let me make it easy for you. Mark chapter 12, starting in verse 30, it says this. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, and with all your strength. Alright? If you're like, I don't want to talk about the rules, here's simple. Love God with everything you are. Love God with all your being, with all your mind, with all the strength that you have, with all the soul inside. Love God unconditionally. And then it says, love your neighbor, love others as yourself. There are no greater commandment, rules, than these. Alright? Sound good? Anybody need more help than just that? Yep. Anybody need more help than just that? Okay, we take these two verses and we're like, that's a great model. That's like you put it up on the wall, and that's the vision of the church, or vision of Christianity, vision of following Jesus. And you're like, how do I do that verse? How do I follow? And that's why we have the 10 Commandments. So there's many others, but this is my challenge for you. We're just going to go through these very quickly. My challenge to you is two things. One, allow God to tell you which rules you are failing. And like Mark Jones just said, we know what they are. We don't need the enlightenment of, oh my gracious me, I should not steal. We know. We just need to not do it. And the second, so one, ask the Holy Spirit to help you. And number two is, take these 10 and work on these 10. Forget all the other rules that you've heard in the Bible for right now. Work on these 10. And by working on these 10, you will fulfill this. I promise you. You with me? Yes. Alright, so we're going to be real quick in Exodus chapter 20. We're just going to go right there real quick. Exodus chapter 20, and that's on page, what in your red Bibles? What's that? 52. Alright, if you do not have a Bible, that Bible is yours to keep. Alright, the red Bible is yours to keep. So I'm just going to go through this. And the very first one is this. You shall have no other gods before me. You shall have no other gods before me. And that's not a big G God, that is a what G God? Little G God. In other words, anything. What this is simply, anything. Your cell phone, Facebook, girlfriend, boyfriend, husband, spouse, children, the church. Anything you put in front of God in your priority list, it becomes a what? A little g God, an idol. What it's saying there is this. Don't have anything above God. Goes back to the verse. Love the Lord your God with all, not just a little, all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind and strength. All right? So you got that? Yeah. So anything, maybe that's you right now. Maybe you're like, man, my Facebook, I've not read my Bible or spent time with God because of Facebook. Or I've not spent any time because I'm out hunting. All right? Is it deer season or turkey season? What is it? Deer season. Okay. All right? Listen to them. All right? So maybe you're up on your deer stand. Maybe bring your Bible. Read it up there. How beautiful would that be to read about God's creation and just see God's creation? That's awesome. But if you ever put deer hunting in front of God, it is a little g, what? God. It becomes an idol. That's what he's saying. Anything you put in front of God is wrong. So that is a what? Sin. If you put anything in front of God, you will get what? Burned. Alright. Then it says, number 2, you shall not make for yourself an idol of any form, in heaven or on earth, beneath the waters or below. You shall not bow down to worship them, or for I, your Lord, your God, am a what God? Jealous God. Punishing the children for the sins of the fathers, for the third or fourth generation of those who hate me, but showing love to the 1,000 generations who I love and keep my commandments. In other words, this. You're probably not going to go make a God. You're not going to go carve the word Facebook and bow down to worship it, are you? If you do, you need to come to my office and we need to talk. Alright? But you're probably not going to do anything as making something or creating something and then worshiping it. But it does say at the very end, it says, you know what? I'm a jealous God, and I love those who don't touch. I love those who will respect this. And then it says, love them, all those who obey my commandment. All right, you with me? All right, so that one's kind of here and there, but here's a little bit more practical one. Verse 7, you shall not misuse the name of the Lord your God, for the Lord will not hold anyone guiltless who misuses my name. Let me ask you, who has ever said the word GD before? Okay, all right. Is that misusing the name of the Lord? Yes. Okay, all right. All right, it's his last name, okay, all right. Misusing, this might be a paradigm shift a little bit in your mind, all right? You know we should not misuse God's name. We know that. GD or any of the other vernaculars that can be put to that. You with me? You know that? Yes. Okay, we know that. By the way, don't do that. You'll get burnt. But I think it goes way deeper than this. Way, way deeper than this. Because listen, raise your hand if you say you are a Christ follower. If you are a Christian, raise your hand. Okay, all right. And do people know that? And I hope they do. Whenever you, as a Christian, Christ follower, go and misuse your life, you misuse your testimony, you misuse who you are in God's eyes, and God says, do this, and you as a Christian say, I'm going to do this. That's misusing the name of the Lord that you and I represent. Does that make sense? Yes. If you're a Christian, Christ follower, act like a Christian or Christ follower. Even though you might be put in jail, in prison. Even though you might be, you might lose your job. You with me? Act like it. That, if you're acting like it, you are using the name of the Lord in your life the right way. If you're acting a certain way, you're misusing the name of the Lord, and you will get what? Burned. You with me? Yes, sir. All right. And then we go to number 8, or verse 8. All right, and this is the most misquoted and misinterpreted Scripture when it comes to the Ten Commandments. And it says this: remember the Sabbath day. Oh, let me pause and say this. Remember Sunday morning at 10:45 a.m. You with me? Yeah. Still remember 10:45 a.m. Sunday morning. So join us back next week. But that's not what it's talking about. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it what? Holy. The word holy means set apart. Set apart. Okay? So remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. 6 days you labor and do all your work. But the seventh day is a what? Is a holy day. It's a Sabbath day. Okay. Does it say there? Does it say take Sundays off?
No.
But isn't that the Sabbath day? Oh, in Jewish custom, it's I'm sorry, it's Saturday. It's Saturday. So we need to take Saturdays off, according to what this says, right? It says work for 7, take a day off. In other words, it says if you work on Sunday and then you work all throughout the week, what day should you probably take off? Saturday. If you start your week on, say, a Tuesday, what day do you think you probably should take off? Monday. That makes sense? Work, but take a day off. It doesn't mean church. It doesn't mean have a special day separated for a day of worship. That's not what it's saying. Because we need to have a constant, everyday days of worship. And today you come and you learn and you worship. But doesn't mean, because how many guys actually have to work after church today, after service today? You heathens! No, that's not what it's saying. Work, but take a day off. You're wrong if we do not take a day off. Let me keep reading. On it you shall not work, neither you or your daughter or your manservant or maidservant. Okay, so any of you guys who have maids, make sure you let them off. Or any animals. Alright, so anybody who's in a farm, make sure you let them. Think about that. Sometimes farmers allow their animals to work, going. They're going to die sooner or later. Let them have a break too. Alright? For the 6th day of the Lord made the heavens and the earth and all of them. But he what on the 7th day?
Rest.
Did he worship on the 7th day?
Rest.
He rested on the 7th day. Therefore, the Lord blessed the Sabbath and made it holy or set apart. In other words, this. I believe one reason why this generation is downing power drinks and caffeine drinks and coffee and all this stuff. By the way, if you do that, that's fine. You're probably going to live less because you're going. Take a break. And I'm the first to tell you that for the last month with the renovation of this building and everything, I have not had a single day of rest. And I have sinned, and I'm publicly saying, I'm sorry, I need to take a break. Because it'll mess with our body, mess with our mind, mess with everything. It's simply this. Find a day. You're like, I need the money. Yeah, you need your health more. I need to take care of this. I need to take a break. Once a week. And by doing so, you will not get burnt. All right. Honor your father and mother so that you can live long in the land of the Lord that is given you. So in other words, obey your parents, for this is the right thing to do. All right? If you don't obey your parents, they will probably burn you. All right? Oh, no. Okay. So obey your parents. Ethan, obey your parents. Yes, sir? Okay. So you're going to live long, buddy. Okay. Verse 13, you shall not murder. Any murderers in here? I'm a murderer. You're a murderer? Good. Eric, why are you a murderer? You sin? Okay. What's that? You're guilty of everything? All right. That's not necessarily what it's saying. Justin, why are you a murderer? There you go. Pull up that next verse, Becca. The Bible talks about, in this case, it says, do not murder. All right? We know we're not supposed to murder. Duh, right? But Jesus comes along later on, and this is what he says. You have heard, it said a long time we go. You shall not murder, and if anyone who murders will be subject to judgment. But I tell you, this is Jesus speaking, but I tell you that anyone who is angry with a brother or sister will be subject to the judgment. Raise your hand now if you are a murderer. We need to look at the Bible, and maybe that's one thing you need to understand is you're going to get burnt if you get angry and frustrated and judge your brother or sister. Just don't do it. Just don't do it. Or you're going to be subject the same way as a murderer. All right. Then it says in verse 13, you shall not commit adultery. I'm not going to ask you to raise your hand if you're committing adultery right now. You're watching. I'm going to read them right now. I'm going to find out. All right, it says this, don't commit adultery. And we know Joseph did not want to commit adultery because he's going to get burnt. Because God says don't, so he went the other direction. Right. So men, let me say this. Is pornography committing adultery? Yes. But you're not having sex with that person. There you go. Pull up that verse, Miss Becca. All right, this is what the Bible says. Moses and the Ten Commandments basically don't commit adultery. Jesus comes along and re-ups that. He says this, but I tell you, anyone who looks at a woman lustfully has committed adultery with her in his heart. So listen, if you commit adultery, it's the same thing as looking at porn, looking at a magazine, looking at somebody within this church body that you're like, dang, she's hot. I wish. Listen, this I'm gonna make this clear about this very quickly. Here's the difference. All right, a lady sitting on the front row right here. I walk up and I'm like, dang. And then I walk by and I'm like, dang. So my mind starts, what does my mind, gentlemen, starts doing to that woman? Starts undressing her, starts thinking about her in pure thoughts and everything. All right? Have I committed adultery? Yes. All right. Same woman sits on the front row. I look up and say, wow, she's pretty, and walks away. Have I committed adultery? No. God created a beautiful woman that might be sitting right here. Okay? But listen. When ladies, start taking off the clothes, start taking off and starting to have those impure thoughts, that's when it becomes adultery. And lust comes into play. All right. Quickly, the next one. Don't steal. Don't steal. All right. Just don't steal. Don't steal. Don't steal. All right. Verse 16, and I love this one. You shall not give a false testimony against your neighbor. And we think testimony, false testimony, that's the court system. It's more than that. Have you ever gossiped about somebody? All right, raise your hand if you ever gossiped about somebody. You have given a false testimony about somebody. Do you have the permission to tell that story to everybody? If not, shut up. All right? Or you're going to get burnt. I think this one could be the most practical one. Have you ever been burnt by a gossip? Have you ever burnt somebody else because of your gossip? The answer is absolutely yes. So we need to know that in order for us not to get burnt, we need to not gossip, not say bad things about others, edify and lift each other up. Then the last one. You shall not covet your neighbor's house. You shall not covet your neighbor's wife. You shall not covet the neighbor's manservant or maidservant, his ox, his donkey, or anything that belongs to your neighbor. I know you're not going to covet my donkey or my ox, but you might covet my car. You might covet my house. You might... Everybody's laughing. You know my car is a piece of junk, but it has 85,000 miles on it. Okay. You coveting now? Okay. But check it out. It's as easy as this. The world basically says, you must have this, you want to have this, you want to have this. There's advertisements plastered all over TV. 5 minutes in between each thing, and they're saying, you want this, you want this, you want this. If you want to look like this, act like this, you want this. And basically the Bible's saying is this, you're going to be dead to your eyeball. You're going to be in debt, you're going to be in trouble, you're going to be hurt, you're going to be burnt if you try to live above and beyond your means. Just because somebody has, or the world has, does not mean you need to have. If God wants you to have it, He's going to give it to you. If you love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength, and love your neighbor as yourself. Bow your head and close your eyes. Lord Jesus, today is a fun day because, God, I pray that everyone in this place here will know with a shadow of doubt that, God, you have given us these rules, these regulations, these guidelines, not to be a mean God, not to be a God that is waiting to throw lightning down from heaven and saying, shame on you, shame on you, shame on you. No, He's simply being a loving Father. So God, I pray everyone in here will know that you, God, you're jealous for us because you want a relationship with us. You desire a relationship with us. And maybe in this room right now, there are some people within this room that don't even have a relationship with you. They have a religion, they have the rules, they have the regulations, they have all this stuff, but they don't have a relationship. Lord, I pray today that they will realize that relationship or that religion will get them to go to hell. But a relationship with you through Jesus Christ and what you have done on the cross for each and every one of us will be so evident that they need you. So God, it's simple. The simple question is, do you have a relationship with God? And as simple as this, are you a sinner? Are you a rule breaker? Even one white lie, one stolen object, one lustful thought separates you from God because you are a sinner. The Bible says, but God demonstrates His own love for you, that even though you are still a sinner, Jesus Christ died for you. He died for the murderer, the rapist, and He died for the simple white lie. He died for it all. He died for you. So the question is this, do you have a relationship? Or you just follow the rules and the religion? You need a relationship with Jesus. So right now, think about that. Do you have a religion? Or do you have a relationship with the God who sent Jesus to die for you? If the answer is you have a religion or just you don't really care, but you desire a relationship, check it out. The Bible says that if you just turn to Him and you turn to God and say, I'm sorry, I'm so very sorry. And if you turn to Him and say, I have faith that Jesus came to this earth and died for me as a sinner. I believe that with my whole heart. And in 3 days He conquered death and came back alive. And He's living in heaven right now and says, I'm here. I paid the price. Do you want to have a relationship with me? So with your head bowed and eyes closed, I'm going to lead you through a prayer. Now the prayer does not save you. It's your heartfelt desire to ask for forgiveness. It's your heartfelt desire to accept the call that Jesus has given you and accept this gift that He's already given. So with your head bowed and eyes closed, just in your own mind, say something simple like this. Say, hey, dear Jesus, I am a rule breaker. I'm a sinner. Forgive me of my sins. Thank you for sending Jesus to come and die and to raise again for my sins. Thank you for the gift you have given me. Now help me live a life that pleases you. With absolutely nobody looking around, if you pray that prayer and you really, really meant it for the very first time, nobody's looking, just me and God. If you pray that prayer and really meant it, I just want to raise your hand right now. If you pray that prayer and you really meant it for the first time, fantastic. Anybody else? Great. Just put your hand up. That's awesome. Thank you. Now put your hands down. Fantastic. If you pray that prayer and you really meant it, go and look at me just for a quick second. Nobody's looking around at you, whatever. Just peek your head up. Do me a favor. Take this little blue card, fill it out, drop it onto the mailboxes, because here's the deal. We want to help you in this new relationship. Yeah, I know you have lots of questions, and we're here to help you with that. But let me let you know that we are extremely excited that you made that decision today. So So fill out that card, drop it in there, so we can help you along this journey. Catalyst Church, go and look at me for a second. You've been burnt, and maybe your hands and your bodies are scarred because of sin. It's time today to pray and ask God for forgiveness. Prayer station's there, prayer station's here, or you can come down here. Or maybe you want to just sit in your seat. We're not going to stand there in this song. So if people need to get out, let them out. How awesome a testimony when everybody would have to leave and come down front. But maybe if you want to take a pen, and on the back of the card, you need to write down some things that you're going to work on. Write them down and say, God, help me with my lust. Help me with my sin of stealing. Help me with my gossip. So as Rachel and the band sings this last song, I want to pray that you don't leave this place without getting your jump together. Rules are there for you. Accept them from a loving, truly, and awesome God. So don't stand. Right? Let's turn on the lights a little bit, Rick, so that